Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. Brian Winnekins from the National Association of Farm Broadcasting Convention. And thank you to our broadcast sponsors, including Alcivia Co-op, Compure Financial, also Anibis Silo, along with Osteoplastics and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association. Speaking of the Corn Growers Association, we have Jon Doggett. He's Chief Executive Officer of the National Corn Growers Association. We're going to talk a little bit about corn today. And Jon, thanks for joining us. Well, obviously, with the pandemic, and we're kind of coming out of it, but demand for corn has been going quite well. What are some of the driving demand factors for corn this year?
Big is China. We're exporting a lot of corn to China, and the other foreign markets are good. Ethanol demand is so-so. Livestock is so-so, but the big driver right now has been the trade, in particular to China.
Talking about the ethanol demand, is it frustrating for corn growers? We see prices at the pump going up. We see increased usage and people driving. And this RFS, here's a product that could help lower prices and increase demand and help farmers, and EPA and the RFS just kind of like, whatever.
Absolutely ridiculous that members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, both ends of the Hill, are talking about opening the strategic reserve. Well, we've got a mound of corn in this country. We've got a lot of ethanol production in this country. That's where we ought to be going to get this energy and to bring these prices down. We know we can do it. Just got to happen.
And why are they, when you've been out on the Hill or folks from National Corn Growers have been out and talking with some of the members of the Congress, why are they thinking this way?
Oil swings a big stick. I mean, they are huge. They're huge. I mean, some of their smaller companies have twice as many lobbyists as I do in Washington, D.C. Money talks in Washington, D.C., and they've done a lot of talking. And, they have pushed back on reasonable, rational things. And I talk to my counterparts in those industries. They're holding the line, and I'm absolutely shocked that they are not more willing to compromise and to get more ethanol in the fuel tanks so that we can push back on this rush to electric vehicles.
Talking with Jon Doggett, he's Chief Executive Officer at the National Corn Growers Association this morning. You mentioned China with the increase in exports. How important is it to continue to expand the market, though, for U.S. corn to other countries? Because obviously we saw what happened a few years back when the trade wars started. Now, what are we going to do here? So how important is it to be expanding that?
Well, we are partnered with the U.S. Grains Council, and it's a really important partnership in order to expand markets across the globe. There's so many places that will use more corn if we can just break into those markets. We were in Vietnam 2 years ago, and just it's amazing the culture there. Those folks, they want to get up in the morning, they want to work hard, make some money, and move forward. And we just saw an energy there that was just amazing. Went to Myanmar in a similar situation. We've got great opportunities in Morocco, Egypt. Of course, India is the next really big market, but that is probably one of the hardest markets to break into in the globe.
So that market's gonna be. We're not going to be having any big news stories on that here probably for a couple of years.
Their politics won't do it. I mean, their politics are not going to keep them from, or they're not going to allow them to do some of the things that they ought to do. I mean, some of their larger cities have among the worst air pollution in the world. They need some ethanol in those vehicles that they're running around there. It'd sure help, and we could improve their diets as well.
Jon Doggett, he is Chief Executive Officer with the National Corn Growers Association. Before we let you go, Jon, coming up next year in March, the Commodity Classic, and I know corn growers, big part of that. It's going to be nice to be back together again for that.
I think that the synergy you get when you're able to talk to people from around the country that have similar interests and similar goals, that's something that we need. You can do a lot on Zoom. Thank goodness we had Zoom during the pandemic. What would we have done if we'd had the technology that existed 10 years before? So, but that was a stopgap, and I think it's time for us to get back as long as we can do it safely. We have a lot of folks that are worried, and we need to assure them that they're going to have a safe experience.
But it should be a great event. Looking forward to it back in New Orleans, and that's always a fun play. That just having it in New Orleans is always a fun place to have it.
If you can't have fun in New Orleans, you don't know how to have fun.
I know a few years back I was able to take my daughter with me to Commodity Classic, and she likes to take pictures, and it didn't take her very long to go, Dad, I'm kind of far away here. I think I went a little bit farther than I should have because there's so much to see.
There is so much to see and so much to do. It'll be great.
So you can find out more at commodityclassic.com as well as corn growers being part of that. Wisconsin corn growers, of course, will be at Commodity Classic too. We are at the NAFB convention here in Kansas City. I'm Brian Winnikins for WRDN.